I want to start by saying that I am not a vindictive person. I never have been. People who know me will tell you that I am the kind of woman who shows up early, stays late, and gives more than she probably should. I have always been that person. And for most of my adult life, that person was taken advantage of by the one individual who was supposed to love me unconditionally. My sister Dana is 32. I am 35. Growing up, I worshipped her. She was funnier than me, louder than me, and somehow always ended up being the center of every room she walked into. I was the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who studied while Dana charmed her way through life. My parents used to joke that Dana could talk her way out of anything and into everything. They said it like it was a compliment. I realize now they were just describing who she actually was. Our parents passed within 2 years of each other. My father went first from the heart attack, and my mother followed him not long after, almost like she couldn't imagine being in a world without him. It sounds beautiful when I describe it that way, but the reality was brutal and sudden and left Dana and me with the house, some savings, and each other. I was 27 when my mother died. Dana was 24. I had a stable job in accounting by then. Dana was between things, as she always was. Between jobs, between relationships, between plans. She had a way of always being in the middle of becoming something without ever quite arriving. When we settled my parents' estate, I suggested we split everything equally. Dana agreed. What I did not anticipate was that an equal split to Dana meant an equal split on paper and something else entirely in practice. Within a year, her half of the inheritance was mostly gone. A failed business idea, a bad investment she didn't research, a boyfriend who I will get to in a moment. I didn't say anything. She was grieving. We both were. I told myself people process loss differently. The boyfriend's name was Marcus. Dana met him about 8 months after our mother died, and she was absolutely consumed by him within weeks. I tried to be supportive, I really did. But Marcus had a quality that I noticed almost immediately and that Dana seemed completely blind to. He was always assessing. Every conversation he had, he was calculating what he could get from it. He would ask questions that seemed friendly, but were actually just information gathering. Within the first months of meeting me, he knew what I did for work, roughly what I earned, and that I owned my apartment outright. He knew all of this because he had asked, casually, the way you might ask someone what their favorite color is. Dana, meanwhile, was happy, in a way I hadn't seen her in years, and I loved her. So I kept my concerns to myself, and I smiled at Sunday dinners, and I told her he seemed great. Fast forward 18 months. Dana calls me, practically breathless, to tell me that Marcus proposed. I congratulated her. I meant it, even though something in my stomach dropped the moment she said his name. She wanted a big wedding. She had always wanted a big wedding, even as a little girl. Our mother used to joke that Dana had been planning her wedding since she was 7 years old. Then she told me what she was thinking in terms of budget. The number she named made me go quiet for a moment. I asked her where she was planning to get that kind of money. She paused. Then she said, "You know I would never ask if I wasn't completely stuck." There it was. She needed help. Not a little help, real, substantial help. The venue alone was going to be expensive. She wanted a specific place, a renovated farmhouse outside the city that had been featured in a bridal magazine. It had a waiting list. It was beautiful, I won't deny that. She had sent me photos and even I could see why she loved it. I told her I needed to think about it. She said, "Of course, take all the time you need." And then she called me again the next morning. I want to be honest about why I said yes. It wasn't just because she was my sister. It was because I still believed, at that point, that underneath everything, Dana loved me. We had been through our parents dying together. We had held each other at 2 different funerals. I thought that meant something permanent. I thought grief had bonded us in a way that nothing could undo. So I said yes. I told her I would cover the venue deposit and a significant portion of the remaining costs. My contribution ended up being just over $22,000 across several payments made over about 9 months. I want you to understand that this was not money I couldn't afford. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you so the rest of the story makes sense. Dana was overwhelmed with gratitude, at least at first. She cried on the phone. She told me I was the best sister in the world. She sent me a long message about how our mother would be so proud of both of us. I screenshot that message. I still have it. The planning began and I was included in everything. Dana would call me with updates constantly. She sent me fabric swatches for the bridesmaids' dresses. She asked my opinion on the cake flavors. She debated centerpiece options with me for what felt like hours. I was happy to be involved. This was my sister's wedding. I wanted it to be perfect for her. I noticed at some point that the calls became a little less frequent. I told myself she was busy. Planning a wedding is genuinely stressful and she had a lot of moving parts. I didn't push. Then, one afternoon, I ran into a woman named Claire who I had known peripherally through Dana for years. We stopped to chat and she mentioned how excited she was for the wedding. I smiled and said, "Me too." She looked at me with an expression I didn't immediately understand. It was the look you make when you realize you have accidentally said something you shouldn't have. She recovered quickly and changed the subject. But something about that look stayed with me. I called Dana that evening. Casual, just checking in. She seemed warm enough, distracted maybe. I mentioned that I had run into Claire. Dana said, "Oh, that's nice." I asked her how the final guest list was coming together. She said, "Great, almost done." I said, "You'll send it to me soon?" She said, "Yeah, of course." She didn't. 2 weeks went by. I followed up, gently, asking if she'd finalized everything. She said she was still sorting a few things out. I said, "No rush, just let me know." Another week passed. And then, on a Tuesday evening, I got an email. A formal, save-the-date style email, the kind you send to guests. I opened it thinking it was some kind of error or maybe a forward. But no, it was from Dana's wedding planner, and my name was not on the guest list. I sat with my phone in my hand for a long time. I called Dana. She didn't pick up. I called again. She sent me to voicemail. I texted her and said, "I think we need to talk." She replied, several hours later, and said she had been meaning to speak with me about something. She said she hoped I would understand. She said that Marcus felt strongly that the wedding should be an intimate event, very close friends and family only. She said that given everything that had happened between us over the years, she and Marcus had decided together that having me there might create tension. I read that message 3 times. Given everything that had happened between us over the years. I want to pause here and be clear about something. I could not identify, then or now, a single serious conflict Dana and I had ever had. There were small things, the kinds of frictions any 2 sisters accumulate over a lifetime. But nothing that warranted what I was reading. Nothing that could be described as everything that had happened. What I believe, and what later became clear, is that Marcus had been working on Dana for a long time. He did not want me at that wedding because I was the one person in Dana's life who he had never been able to charm. I was the one who watched him with clear eyes. I was the accountant. I asked questions he didn't like. And he had 19 months to convince Dana that my clear eyes were actually judgment and that my questions were actually interference and that my presence at his wedding would be a problem. And Dana let him. That is the part I have had to sit with. I responded to her message calmly. I said I understood that she had made a decision. I said I was deeply hurt, but that I respected that it was her wedding and ultimately her choice. I wished her happiness. Then I sat down and thought very carefully. Here is what I knew. My name was on all the payments I had made to the venue. The contract was in my name, because Dana had no credit history substantial enough and had asked me to sign it. I was listed as the primary contact. Every invoice had gone to my email address. $22,000 of deposits and payments that the venue was currently holding. I want to be clear that what I did next, I did not do in a moment of rage. I slept on it. I slept on it for 4 nights actually. I talked to 2 people I trusted deeply. One of them said to let it go and move on with my dignity. The other one said I had every legal right to handle the contract as I saw fit, since I was the one who signed it. On the 5th morning, I called the venue. I spoke with the events coordinator, a woman I had been in touch with throughout the entire planning process. I explained the situation factually and without drama. I told her that I was the contract holder, that I had funded the event, and that I would be cancelling and requesting a refund of whatever portion was refundable under the cancellation terms. She was sympathetic. She pulled out the contract. According to the terms, cancelling with more than 60 days notice entitled me to a partial refund. It wasn't everything, but it was a meaningful amount. I told her to process the cancellation. Then I called Dana. She picked up this time. I told her, very calmly, that I had spoken to the venue. I told her that since the contract was in my name, I had exercised my right to cancel it. I told her I wished her well and ended the call. What followed was not calm. Dana called back immediately, then again. Then Marcus called from his phone. Then Dana texted me a message that was so long my phone had to load it in sections. She used words I will not repeat. She accused me of ruining her life. She said I had always been jealous of her. She said our mother would be ashamed of me. That last one was the only one that made me feel anything at all. I held my phone for a moment, then I put it face down and went to make tea. Marcus sent me a voice note, which I found extraordinary. He said that what I had done was illegal. It is not illegal. I am an accountant. I know what is and isn't legal. He said he would be speaking to a lawyer. I said that was absolutely his right and that I would be happy to share the full paper trail showing every payment had come from my account. I did not hear from a lawyer. I did hear from my aunt, who called to tell me that Dana was devastated and that she thought I should reconsider. I told my aunt gently that I loved her and that Dana had made her choices and I had made mine. My aunt went quiet and then said she supposed she understood. What happened next, I did not plan and could not have predicted. One of Dana's other bridesmaids, a woman named Priya, who I had met once at a birthday party, sent me a message out of the blue about a week later. She wanted me to know something. She had been at a planning dinner with Dana and Marcus 2 months earlier. At this dinner, Marcus had explicitly said that he intended to keep my funding but cut me from the guest list, and that the way to manage it was to present it to me as a mutual decision made with care, using language like tension and intimacy so that it didn't sound like what it was, which was, to use Priya's exact words, just getting the money and getting rid of you. Dana had not objected. Priya said she had almost reached out then but hadn't known what to do. She said she was sorry it had taken her this long. I thanked her. I genuinely meant it. I spent a few weeks in a quiet kind of grief. Not anger, not anymore, just grief. Because what I lost was not a wedding invitation. I had lost the version of Dana I thought I knew. The one I held onto through 2 funerals and years of bailing her out and showing up and saying yes when I probably should have sometimes said no. That Dana, it turned out, was at least partially a story I had been telling myself. The actual wedding did not happen at the farmhouse venue. I have no idea where it happened, if it happened at all. I did not receive an invitation to the rescheduled version either. I was not surprised. I have not spoken to Dana in 7 months now. It is the longest we have gone without speaking in our entire lives. My aunt calls occasionally and gives me updates I mostly do not ask for. Marcus and Dana are apparently struggling. I feel nothing in particular about that. What I feel something about is this. The morning after I called the venue, I woke up and made breakfast and sat by my window with my coffee, and I noticed that I felt lighter than I had in years. Not happy exactly, but free of something I hadn't realized how heavily I had been carrying. I had spent so long making myself smaller and quieter and more accommodating so that Dana would stay in my life. I had confused her presence with love. I had kept giving because I thought that was what kept us connected. And the moment I stopped, the moment I simply said no, actually, and enforced the one boundary I had the legal standing to enforce, she showed me exactly who she was. Marcus didn't make Dana this way. I want to be fair. He may have amplified it, He may have seen it and used it, but the choices were hers. She is a grown woman. She made a decision to take my money and exclude me from the most significant day of her life. She sat at a dinner table while her fiancé described exactly how to manage me, and she did not object. That is not something Marcus made her do. That was her. If you are watching this and you are the person who always gives, always shows up, always makes room for someone who returns the favor inconsistently, I want to say something to you directly. You are not obligated to keep funding someone's life if they have decided you don't belong in it. Generosity is a gift. It is not a contract. But when someone takes your generosity and hands you an exclusion notice in return, you are allowed to close the account. That is what I did. I closed the account. I don't know what happens next with Dana. Maybe nothing. Maybe someday she calls and we have the long, uncomfortable, necessary conversation. I won't close that door. She is my sister, and she was there when my father died and when my mother died. And that means something. That doesn't just disappear. But I will not be the one who reaches first, and I will not be writing any more checks. My name is still on that original contract, filed in the venue's records as the client who cancelled in good standing with no dispute, full documentation, everything above board. Somewhere in the city, there is a beautiful farmhouse venue that is not hosting my sister's wedding. And somewhere in my apartment, there is a screenshot of a message from Dana telling me I was the best sister in the world. I keep it because it reminds me of what I was willing to believe, and also because it reminds me of exactly when that stopped being enough. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next story.